Fear is an enormous part of this story. I think it's a key element in any thriller. It's what makes a thriller as opposed to an ordinary mystery or a police procedural. You have an element of fear. And the element of fear exists in the story, and I think to make it really a thriller, that element of fear has to move from the story into the reader. And from what I gather from talking to some of the early readers of this book, that happens. The starting point for my new novel can be summed up in one question. Could a nightmare be used as a murder weapon? It may seem at first a kind of an outlandish question, but in fact, as we get into this new story, there seems to be a great deal of evidence that that's exactly what happened. Dave Gurney doesn't believe that that's what happened, and that's the starting point for this story. There is a hotel in which all of the characters involved in the story essentially come together. That hotel exists only in my imagination. In the story, it becomes a very claustrophobic place. There's a blizzard, people get trapped, and fear, I think, grows in an enclosed space. There's an element in the story that may not seem like a typical element in a detective story. There's a scene in the story where one of the characters is seeing something that they believe to be a ghost of a person who died long ago and was right there, that moment in front of them. It's a little bit disorienting. Like everything else in this book, it ultimately has a rational explanation that Dave Gurney pursues and arrives at. But while it's happening, it's a very eerie moment. You know, there are two kinds of fear, I think, really. There's a simple physical fear, but there's a much worse fear. And I think the much worse fear is a fear when the threat is not quite so tangible. Because when the threat isn't quite so tangible, it has the ability to expand in your mind and take over. If I know what the real fear is, there's a guy in front of me who looks like he's got a bigger fist than I do, okay, that I can kind of keep in a box what might happen with that. But if I hear a strange sound in the night, and I'm in an enclosed place, and I don't know what the sound is or what's making it, I can magnify that into my mind into something absolutely unbearable. And so I think psychological fear is the real boogeyman.